Sally was a young and adventurous woman who loved to travel and explore new places. She had heard about the mysterious house on the outskirts of a small, remote town that was available for rent on Erin. The locals called it the haunted house due to the dark history it carried. Intrigued by the rumors, Sally saw it as a thrilling opportunity and decided to book it for a week-long vacation. As she arrived at the house, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The property was surrounded by dense woods, and the old mansion seemed to loom over her like a shadow from the past. But Sally brushed off her fears, convincing herself it was all just local superstitions. On the first night, strange things began to happen. As Sally was preparing dinner in the kitchen, she heard faint whispers and footsteps in empty rooms. Chills ran down her spine, but she attributed it to her imagination playing tricks on her. Later that night, while lying in bed, she heard a door creak open and close down the hallway. Feeling increasingly unsettled, Sally decided to do some research the next day. To her horror, she discovered that the house had a dark history dating back a century. The previous owners had lost their young daughter under mysterious circumstances, and subsequent owners had reported eerie occurrences and tragedies, leading to the legend that the house was cursed. Despite the terrifying revelations, Sally couldn't shake her curiosity. She wanted to uncover the truth behind the curse and expose it as mere folklore. With each passing day, the supernatural events intensified. She heard disembodied voices, saw fleeting shadows in the corners of her vision, and witnessed objects moving on their own. Sally's determination led her to a local historian, Mr. Johnson, who had a deep understanding of the town's history. Mr. Johnson warned her to leave the house, explaining that several guests who had tried to disprove the curse met with unfortunate fates. Ignoring his advice, Sally pressed on, hoping to find a logical explanation. As Sally delved deeper into the house's history, she discovered that the curse seemed to target individuals who didn't respect the tragedy that had occurred there. Determined to break the curse, Sally decided to hold a ceremony to honor the memory of the deceased girl and pay her respects. On the night of the ceremony, the atmosphere in the house became oppressive. Sally lit candles and recited heartfelt words, asking for forgiveness and offering solace to the restless spirit. During the ceremony, she felt a sudden drop in temperature, and an eerie silence enveloped the room. Just as she was about to conclude, the candles flickered violently, and a presence seemed to fill the air. Sally was overwhelmed with fear, but she persisted, staying true to her intention of putting the spirit to rest. A chilling voice echoed through the house, thanking Sally for her compassion and revealing the tragic tale of the young girl who had died there. She had been neglected by her family and left to suffer alone, and her spirit had remained trapped within the house ever since, seeking revenge against those who showed no remorse for her fate. Tears streamed down Sally's face as she apologized on behalf of those who had caused the girl's pain. With her heart heavy with emotion, she pleaded for the curse to be lifted and for the spirit to find peace. In that moment, a sudden gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candles. The temperature returned to normal, and the oppressive atmosphere dissipated. The spirit seemed to have moved on. The following days, the house felt serene, and the supernatural occurrences ceased. Sally's act of kindness had broken the curse, and the locals began to see her as a hero who had put the troubled spirit to rest. As she prepared to leave the town, Mr. Johnson approached her with gratitude and admiration for her bravery. Sally had not only survived the curse, but she had also brought closure to a haunting chapter of the town's history. Little did she know that the spirit of the young girl had found a way to express her gratitude. In her final night at the house, Sally had a vivid dream where the girl appeared, smiling and at peace, thanking her for setting her soul free. When Sally woke up, she knew that this experience would stay with her forever. From that day onward, Sally continued her adventures, carrying the memory of the haunted house and the tragic girl in her heart. She had learned that beneath the veil of darkness, there could be profound stories of sorrow and forgiveness, waiting to be unraveled by those brave enough to seek the truth. In the weeks that followed, Sally couldn't help but reflect on her harrowing experience at the haunted house. She had gone on many adventures before, but this one was unlike any other. The encounter with the restless spirit had left a lasting impact on her, and she felt a newfound sense of appreciation for the complexities of life and death. As she traveled to new destinations, Sally often found herself seeking out local folklore and haunted legends. She felt a strange connection to the supernatural world, a desire to understand the stories behind the unexplained and mysterious. Through her travels, she became known as the Ghost Seeker, someone who sought out haunted places not for thrill but to uncover the untold stories and bring closure to lost souls. Over the years, Sally compiled her experiences and findings into a book, recounting her encounters with the paranormal and the history behind each haunting. Her book became a bestseller, captivating readers worldwide with its unique blend of adventure, suspense, and compassion. While her fame grew, Sally never lost sight of the true purpose of her journey. She continued to investigate stories of hauntings, always approaching each case with empathy and a genuine desire to help the spirits find peace. One day, as she was researching her next project, she received an email from a young woman named Emily. Emily explained that she had recently moved into an old house and was experiencing unexplainable occurrences, similar to what Sally had faced at the haunted house years ago. Sally could sense the fear and anxiety in Emily's message and immediately felt a strong connection to the situation. She decided to visit Emily and her home to see if she could offer any help. As she entered the house, she sensed a lingering presence and knew that there was a restless spirit seeking attention. Over the next few days, Sally delved into the history of the house and discovered the tragic tale of a woman who had died under mysterious circumstances decades ago. It was evident that the spirit of this woman was still bound to the house, unable to find peace. With her experience and understanding of the supernatural world, Sally devised a plan to help the spirit move on. She held a ceremony to honor the woman's memory and offered words of compassion and forgiveness. The atmosphere in the house shifted, and Sally knew that the spirit had heard her. In the days that followed, Emily noticed a significant change in her home. The unexplainable occurrences ceased, and she felt a sense of tranquility she hadn't experienced since moving in. Emily was eternally grateful to Sally for bringing peace to her home and had seen firsthand the power of compassion and understanding in the face of the unknown. As Sally continued her journey, she encountered many more spirits and heard countless haunting tales. Each encounter deepened her understanding of the afterlife and the importance of acknowledging the past to find resolution. Her life's work became a beacon of hope for those affected by the supernatural and a testament to the power of empathy. Sally knew that there was much more to the world than what met the eye, and she was determined to continue seeking out the stories of lost souls, bringing them the closure they sought and the peace they deserved. Randy, an adventurous traveler, decided to take a break from his mundane life and booked an errand in a remote countryside town. The listing was for a charming old house with a mysterious history, but Randy was intrigued by the idea of staying in such a unique place. Little did he know that this decision would lead him down a path of horror and darkness. As Randy arrived at the house, he was struck by its eerie atmosphere. The facade seemed pleasant enough, but there was something unsettling about it. Ignoring his gut feeling, Randy brushed it off as mere nerves and entered the house. The interior was adorned with antique furniture, and dim lighting added to the spooky ambience. The host, an elderly woman named Mrs. Grimsby, gave Randy a warm welcome, though her eyes held a hint of sadness and secrecy. She handed him the keys, warning him not to venture into the basement and not to stay past midnight. Randy laughed nervously, thinking it was just an old woman's tale. As the evening settled in, Randy explored the rooms, each filled with history and a strange vibe. However, curiosity got the best of him, and he couldn't resist the allure of the forbidden basement. The door creaked open, revealing a dark, dusty staircase leading downward. Randy descended, and the air grew colder with each step. As he reached the bottom, he noticed old rusted chains attached to the walls, giving him an ominous feeling. Unbeknownst to him, the basement held a chilling history of torment and cruelty. Unable to resist his curiosity, Randy continued his descent into the darkened basement. His heart pounded in his chest, but he pressed on, determined to uncover the secrets hidden beneath the old house. As he explored the basement, Randy stumbled upon a hidden chamber, obscured by a tattered curtain. Inside, he found faded photographs and journal entries scattered across a dusty table. The images depicted innocent children who seemed to be trapped in this sinister place, with despair and fear etched into their faces. Frightened but determined to learn the truth, Randy started reading the journal. It belonged to Mrs. Grimsby's late husband, Horace Grimsby, who had once been the owner of the house. The entry spoke of a dark and cruel past where Horace, driven by madness, had used the basement to torture and abuse orphaned children, whom he had lured to the house with promises of a loving home. As Randy read further, he realized that the spirits of those tortured children still lingered in the house, seeking revenge for the horrors they endured. The spirits were trapped, unable to move on until justice was served. Haunted by the chilling revelations, Randy decided to confront Mrs. Grimsby. He discovered her in the living room, whispering to herself and appearing to be in a trance. He gently questioned her about the past, and she confessed the terrible truth. Mrs. Grimsby had been complicit in her husband's sinister acts, and her guilt weighed heavily on her conscience. She had been trying to protect the world from the malevolent spirits by warning people not to enter the basement or stay past midnight. She revealed that she had wanted to tear down the house, but was unable to do so due to the curse placed upon it by vengeful spirits. As the clock struck midnight, the atmosphere in the house changed. Doors slammed shut, and chilling cries echoed through the halls. The tortured spirits of the children were growing stronger, fueled by the presence of a new intruder, Randy. Realizing that he was the key to ending the curse, Randy resolved to free the spirits from their torment. He vowed to help the children find peace and ensure that justice was served for the atrocities they had suffered. As Randy delved deeper into the history of the house, he uncovered evidence that could expose the Grimsby family's dark past and bring them to justice. He planned to seek help from the local authorities, but he knew he needed to act quickly before the malevolent spirits could harm anyone else. Randy spent the restless night researching and compiling evidence of the Grimsby family's atrocities, hoping that it would be enough to bring them to justice. As the sun rose, he felt a sense of urgency to confront Mrs. Grimsby before the spirits grew even more powerful. When he confronted her with the evidence, Mrs. Grimsby broke down, confessing her dark past and the role she played in her husband's heinous acts. She expressed remorse and regret, stating that she had been haunted by the children's spirits ever since, trapped in a never-ending cycle of guilt and despair. Randy empathized with Mrs. Grimsby's torment, understanding that she was also a victim of her husband's cruelty. Together, they devised a plan to try and break the curse that bound the tortured spirits to the house. Randy contacted the local authorities and shared the evidence he had uncovered, urging them to conduct a thorough investigation into the Grimsby family's past. With the truth exposed, the townspeople were horrified by the house's history and offered their support in any way they could. While waiting for the authorities to arrive, Randy decided to reach out to the restless spirits himself. He sought to understand their pain, hoping to help them find the peace they so desperately sought. With Mrs. Grimsby by his side, they held a séance in the basement, a somber attempt to communicate with the trapped souls. As the séance progressed, the atmosphere grew tense, and the spirits made themselves known. Cries and moans filled the air, and Randy sensed the profound sorrow they carried. He spoke to them, promising that he would help them find justice and release from their torment. At that moment, the authorities arrived, ready to investigate the Grimsby house. They discovered the hidden chamber in the basement, the photographs, and the journal, confirming Randy's claims. The town rallied behind Randy and Mrs. Grimsby, vowing to help the tormented spirits find peace. Together, they performed a ritual of cleansing and forgiveness, seeking to break the curse that held the spirits captive. As they completed the ritual, a profound sense of calm washed over the house. The malevolent presence vanished, and the tortured cries were replaced by a serene silence. The spirits had finally found the peace they had been denied for so long. In the aftermath, the authorities arrested the remaining Grimsby family members who had been involved in the terrible acts. The town decided to demolish the cursed house, hoping to put an end to its dark legacy once and for all. Randy and Mrs. Grimsby, both deeply changed by the experience, decided to create a memorial for the children who had suffered under the Grimsby's reign of terror. They wanted to honor their memory and ensure that such atrocities would never happen again. Over time, the town healed from the horrors of the past, and the memory of the cursed house began to fade. Randy, forever changed by his encounter with the supernatural, continued his travels, spreading the message of hope and justice to all he met. And so, the story of the cursed Airbnb house and its dark past became a cautionary tale, reminding people of the importance of facing the truth, seeking justice, and finding redemption in even the darkest of circumstances.